And I know that a lot of you have tons of questions for our next guest, but I will have you know that our next guest has tons of questions about my studio. She is a superstar gubernatorial candidate in the once great state of California that's going to make a comeback. Caitlyn Jenner is here. Hey, Caitlyn.
Thank you. Yes, California has got to come back or it's just going to die.
I have faith. I have faith. But do you have faith, really quick, before we get into it, in this show, having seen the decor? Because the decor, there's a lot going on in this studio that you commented on when you walked in, and I just died laughing.
Actually, it's kind of scary to do an interview with a guy that's got all these man toys. Yeah, Jimmy, I wonder about you a little bit here. But even the Ghostbuster Cadillac hearse, yes, a lot of fun stuff. Actually, I love all of the Star Wars stuff. I'm in aviation, and I just, I love airplanes and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, but Pee Wee Herman, come on.
I mean, you can't go wrong. Come on, Pee Wee. But yes, she came for an interview, and an intervention broke out.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. But I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we're going to do this.
You're a free thinker.
Well,
I like that.
Well, I want you to know this, and it is very much a big deal to me because I spent most of my adult life driving a taxi. And the way this interview is going so far, I'll probably be driving a taxi again soon. I kid.
I understand.
We're having a great time.
Yeah.
But I consider myself an excellent judge of character, and I have a genuine intellectual curiosity about you because when you announced your candidacy, obviously there was a usual chorus of people trying to discredit it. It must be a publicity thing.
Oh, my God.
Chris,
what does Caitlyn know?
Yeah, what does Caitlyn know? Kris Jenner's masterminding the whole thing. But as I watched you, and I've watched you on so many different interviews now, you have displayed what I consider to be a genuine concern for a state that you love. Yeah. And I applaud that. But my question is, knowing what we've seen go on in California, where we're talking about crime and drugs and homelessness and everything like that, do you think people get how primal this recall is? Or do you think on some level their party loyalty has them in denial about the state of things in California?
Well, the state of California it's undeniably gone downhill for the last 30, 40 years. And it's a shame. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that way. And it's been one-party rule, the Democrats, really for the last 30, 40 years. Yeah. And if you see what can happen in something like that, if you look on a federal level, it's just constantly getting worse and worse. Here you go, Jim. You follow this political stuff pretty close.
For sure.
Why, when somebody gets elected, they go to wherever it is, federal, state, wherever level it is, that they figure their job is to go there to make new laws and create new regulations, and we're going to make the state better because we're going to put in new laws. Yep. And they all go up there, and every year there's more regulations, more laws put on top. We don't need more regulations. Great point. Okay, we've got regulation. In California, we have 21.2 million words of regulations on if you read 300 words a minute, worked a 40-hour work week, it would take you almost 3 years to read all of the regulations. We don't need more. We need less. We don't need more taxes. We don't need more laws. We have laws on the books for just about everything, okay? We need less laws and less regulations and a more pro-business environment.
I am going to quote a former California governor in doing so.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Ronald Reagan, love you. You're absolutely right.
You get it.
And I would be honored to walk in his steps as a governor of California. Arnold's the same way. Actually, Arnold was the first phone call I made when I was seriously starting to consider this.
Really?
And I've known Arnold since 1975.
Okay.
Forever.
You guys are still cool?
Yeah, and I called him up and I said, Arnold, this is what I'm thinking about, And I said, I told him what I was thinking about doing. I hadn't decided yet. And I said, but you're my first phone call, because how was it? Was after it's all over and done with, was it worth it? Yeah. And he was actually very positive. He said it's not easy. You deal with, well, I can't say it on air. But
not even on this show.
Not
That's
even
a
on
bad
this show
sign.
can I say it on there. You got to deal with these types of people. And he said, but overall, he said the best part was campaigning. He said it was the most fun being out with the people and talking about the issues. He's by far the most fun. Once you get there, it gets a little more difficult. It's a little tougher. You have to deal with all these personalities. which is not easy.
Yeah.
But overall, he said it was a very good experience. Yeah,
that's good.
And
good to
so
know.
I went, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better about this. But we have had some great, you know, governors in our state.
Absolutely.
But I am what I call an inclusive Republican. I'm running as a Republican in the most blue of blue states. Not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to put me in this little box that if you're a Republican, you have to think this way. Okay, that's not me. Okay, if you're a Democrat, you have to think this way. If you're black, you have to think that you're in that box. If you're white, you're over here, you're in that box. That's how way you have to think. I'm not like that. I am an inclusive Republican. The reason I've always ran on the Republican side is because I have conservative economic values. I mean, throughout history, we use conservative economic values, lower taxes, less regulations, a pro-business environment. It works.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I want people all to have the dignity of a job, you know, not living on welfare, the dignity of a job. And it has worked throughout history. Look at Trump for the first 3 years. You know, obviously, when COVID hit, the greatest gift to the Democratic Party, you know. And so, but on the social side, I'm inclusive. I'm in it for everybody. You know, and that kind of puts me out of the box in people's perception of what the Republican Party is all about, which is fine because I'm not moving over to the Republican Party and I want them to come to me because I feel like the Republican Party, the most important thing that they can do is be more inclusive.
That's a good
point.
point.
I would like to think I'm kind of the new face, and it's about as new as you can get. But anyway, Jimmy, that's a whole other story.
And you got to see it. It is a brand spanking new face, just to be clear. Looks great. I mean, showroom condition.
But, I want them to come to me, and I want to help the Republican Party be more inclusive.
I agree.
You know? Yeah.
And I think it's great, and I think the fact that you are attracting this new energy to the party is helpful to the country as a whole, because I think people need to get away from passing value judgments on others based on how they vote. You know, our politics have been very reductive in that we've started to decide there's no nuance in any of these issues. And you either agree with me or you're a white supremacist. But I wanted to ask you about one of the big challenges, and it's something you mentioned, which is this insistence on more government dependency. Gavin Newsom is running a $5.2 billion program to pay back rent. Are you going to have to be like an Oprah and start giving away cars now?
No, I think people need the dignity of a job.
I agree there.
We have 18,000 companies left the state. Homelessness is going rampant in our state by far. 50% of all homeless people in the country live in California.
That's crazy.
And out of that, 25% of them live in Los Angeles. It is horrible. That's why so many people are leaving. And it doesn't have to be that way. The reason is we have a tremendous shortage of housing in California. Why? Because you can't build.
Yeah.
The regulations to build in California have just become so ridiculously difficult that nobody, charitable organizations, you know, religious organizations, the private industry, even if they wanted to build affordable houses, they couldn't get it done. It would take 10 years just trying to get the permits.
Sheesh, that's crazy. And then you've got
and you know what that's from?
What is that from?
Well, we just framed.
More
It's called
regulation?
CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, which is a regulation started in 1970 by Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
On the environment, the California Environmental Quality Act. What has happened over the last 50 years is the environmentalists have used that. That was opening of the door.
Okay.
And they have used that regulation to pile top another regulation, another, to where now 50 years later, I mean, if you have a plant, one plant on your back, you know, on your back thing, and you want to actually cut it, oh my God, they're
jumping in.
Yeah, all hell will break loose. You know, when I got 1,000 acres of open land around the outside of it, they're all growing great, but boy, not that one that's in my backyard. But that's how ridiculous regulations have come in California.
That's crazy. Caitlyn Jenner is in studio. If you just joined us, she's not only in studio, she's in her favorite studio ever. If you're just tuning in.
The best.
Well, I want to ask you this because this is interesting to me. But they used to be the Oakland Raiders, they're now the Las Vegas Raiders. Defensive end Carl Nassib came out as an openly gay player in the NFL.
Right.
Got a lot of support in the media day one. Day two, he was outed as a Republican, and a lot of that support kind of dried up a little bit. And it kind of reminded me of someone else I know who transitioned a few years back, got a Courage Award, but is now under, at times, heavy criticism from the same people on the left who applauded your coverage 5 years ago. Are you not amazed at how quick the left does turn on people, whether they be trans, whether they be black, whether they be gay, if in fact they don't stick with the party orthodoxy?
Yes, I am. To be honest with you, it was easier to come out as trans than it was to come out as a Republican. Isn't that sad?
Yes, I'm laughing, but it's terrible.
Sad. I think both should be easy to come out with.
Yeah, why not? It's 2021.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the Republicans. That's why they need a lot of help. And to be honest with you, I want to help that process. The perception of what a Republican is got to change. Yeah. And it's sad to see that. Yeah. I look at it this way. To be honest with you, I'm inclusive. So honestly, I have no problem with everybody. I want to hear everybody's opinion.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Tell it to me. I'm an intelligent human being. I have great common sense. I think we're lacking common sense in politics.
I agree with every point you just made until you agreed to come on this show. Then it kind of knocked you down.
I don't know what my common sense was there.
The booker's been fired.
I didn't know until I walked in the door it was your show.
Come on.
That was my booker.
It's a tough crowd, folks. It's a tough crowd.
That was it. Yeah. Yeah, Stephen Chung. You know Stephen? Oh, yeah. He must like you.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but that's how I wound up here.
Well, that's funny because I think about issues, okay? And I've heard you speak on Fox Air about biological men competing in women's sports. And I know you oppose it, but on some level, do you not feel like you wasted an opportunity? You could have hustled a lot of money playing like women's sports.
Oh, well, you know what? I thought, yeah.
You could have made some big dough, Caitlyn.
Yeah, I might have been able to, except women don't have the salaries, soccer or anything like that. They're all complaining we're not getting paid enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. But no, I could use the analogy. I mean, imagine in 76 I won the decathlon. But honestly, I was trans then. Nobody knew it. Yeah. All these thoughts were in my head. I just wasn't doing anything about it. And so what if 4 years later I decided, oh, you know what? Maybe I should run in the heptathlon, which is the women's equivalent of the decathlon. And would that be fair? No. It wouldn't be, And so I am, the bottom line on this, I want to protect women's sports, girls' sports in school. We have, as you get at the high school level, there's no rules, regulations. Anybody can go on and on and on. Okay, get in the NCAA. If you are a trans athlete, there are regulations and rules that you have to follow. You get to the Olympic level, it's the same thing. There are rules. The Olympic Committee's been dealing with this issue for 50 years. Yeah. I mean, they were testing back in the 60s. All the girls at the Olympics would have to take a saliva test to make sure their DNA was right. Wow. Okay, this is the years of, I don't know if you're quite old enough, right. The East German women, swimmers, the East German track girls, the Russia, the Soviet, track athletes. I was looking at them and I'm going, well, is this right? And so the Olympic Committee has been dealing with this for a long time. That's like you just saw a first transgender weightlifter. It's been all over the news. Is going to be competing for New Zealand. At first, I go, okay, well, honestly, let's see how this works. But over the last 4 years, has passed all the requirements as far as hormone levels and everything, and became eligible to be able to compete as a female trans athlete. And you know what? That's good. Let's see how it works out.
Yeah.
But when it goes down and there's no rules and regulations, as it gets into the high school level, we have to protect women's sports. We got to protect Title IX. I think that's extremely important. Yeah. And there are no rules and regulations at that level. Maybe in the future we do something like that, but for right now there isn't. So let's protect women's sports.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Caitlyn Jenner in the house, making a lot of brilliant points. You showed up to this one. You brought your A game.
I always bring Jimmy. I know.
Yeah.
You're pushing me. You're pushing me. I got to bring my A game. Yeah.
Last one for the road. I know somebody has a flight to catch. Kanye West ran for president this year. If 2024 rolls around and you're not running the state of California, any talk of a Caitlyn-Kanye super ticket for the White House?
First of all, I love Kanye.
Me too. Okay. Cool.
We have sat down and had some of the greatest conversations one way or the other. But I mean, I love Kanye, and he's been a tremendous supporter of me. Even, he was around when I transitioned, when I went through all of that, and he was just so on my side. And I've been on his side the whole way.
Good.
Running for governor, the first time for me being on the inside of a political campaign. Okay, I've always been on the outside, kind of watching. Boy, is it interesting. And I'm going to first give this the absolute best shot I can, because I think I can do a lot to save California, putting the right people in place, and I'm excited about that. I can remember when I first came into California, I drove in my 63 VW Bug and I saw the big sign, "Welcome to California." I'd never been to California, and it's like, I was so excited, Can you imagine?
It's awesome.
Almost 50 years later, whatever it is, that you become governor or can actually bring California back, that gets me psyched up. But I'm going to go through the next couple of months and see how it goes. Whatever happens, win, lose, draw, it doesn't make any difference. I want to live the process and then decide from there where I go.
Well, I got all the faith in the world. I'm rooting hard. And wherever you wind up, I will be supporting you. Honestly, despite the roast of my studio, I still love you.
Yes, no, but the tough part for all you listening out in California, the tough part is question one.
Yeah.
Do you want to recall Gavin Newsom?
Well, I do.
We have to keep him below 50% on that. And he's going to come out and be like the greatest governor ever.
Listen, I got faith. Caitlyn Jenner. You've made a believer of me. We're up against the commercial break, but we'll always have this.
We always will. CaitlynJenner.com. Support us.